But again, everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and as I said, even good evening, because we do have people joining us from a lot of different time zones. So my name is Michelle Preble. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the talent acquisition manager for Visier. Very delighted to be joining you this morning from beautiful Vancouver, BC, and also joined by my wonderful guests, Asindia Chang, our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, and Jake Sorofman, our Chief Marketing Officer. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So pleased. And you know what? It's really interesting, sort of a soapbox moment. LinkedIn is such a hive of activity these days. You know, everyone's hiring, in-mails are coming out galore. So many people are growing. There's so many opportunities. But one of the things that I am really finding is that the access to the information that everybody needs is not getting easier, right? Connection to mission and vision, the purpose of why a company exists. You know, what can my career look like if I join there? And so really what I was hoping we achieve today is to pull back the curtain on Visier and to help people understand, you know, why we exist, what's our mission and vision, connect you to our purpose and why what we do really matters. And there's no two better people to help us understand that journey with Visier and what that could mean to your career than Asindia and Jake. And so to kick things off this morning, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jake Sorofman. Jake, I'd love you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Michelle. So my name is Jake Sorofman, and I am CMO of Visier. I joined about 10 months ago, and I look forward to sharing a bit about the experience. And it's been an amazing pleasure to be here, just working with really great people, smart people, doing good and important work. I've spent the last 25 years in primarily marketing roles, most recently as CMO of a company called Pendo that grew very, very fast. And I actually took a little bit of a detour in my career several years ago where I was chief of research at Gartner and spent 5 years at Gartner looking at markets from the other side of the fence, not from a go-to-market perspective, but from an analysis and advisory and consulting perspective, which was pretty fascinating.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And, you know, Jake, I'm really excited for you to share a bit about that journey because having only joined us, you know, 10 months ago and being involved in your recruitment process myself, you know, I always think it's special to learn, you know, there's no shortage of companies that were vying for your attention. So, you know, sharing why you chose us, you know, SaaS is a big place at the moment. And, you know, easy question first, a bit of a lob ball, you know, out of everywhere you could have gone, like, why did you go for Visier? What was it about us?
It was a no-brainer. There were a few things that really stood out for me. The first was just ridiculously good market timing. So aligned to some of the most urgent business issues and challenges of the day. So helping companies to better understand their employees for the purpose of hiring better, retaining better, making employees more successful, happy, fulfilled within their work, helping companies to get more value from employees and employee relationships. All of this really spoke to me as something that really couldn't be matched in terms of urgency and relevance at this moment in time. The second is really one of the best enterprise products I've seen in my 25-year career. It's just impeccably well designed, a tremendous amount of customer love. I've actually never seen an NPS score as high as the one that Visier has. And that stood out for me because as a marketer, I've marketed products that aren't very good, believe me, and it can be done. But it is so much easier and so much more fun when customers love the product. So I felt like there was just a tremendous opportunity to really lean into that and take the brilliant product we had built and the wellspring of goodwill that we had established with our customers and use that as the basis to propel marketing to the next level. And then finally, people with, I described it at the time, electric intelligence, just really, really smart, but very low ego, just good people who I could relate to and connect with.
Awesome. You brought up a couple of really important points there. Of course, you know, connection to the product, it's something you feel passionate about selling, and also people that you feel connected to that you can work along with and collaborate with. I'd love to scratch the surface a little bit further into a bit buzzwordy, but the people powered enterprise. So
Mhm.
why, you know, we're passionate about what we do, obviously, but why do we have such a strong product market fit right now? Like, what is it about our product that is really driving sales? Why do people love it?
So I think most companies, most leaders have long known and said that employees are their most important asset. So it's almost a cliche. It doesn't make it any less true, but I think it's something we sort of took for granted for a very long time. Until 2 years ago, when the world was turned upside down by a pandemic and suddenly work became remote and companies were completely destabilized and disoriented by a global pandemic that was causing economic pain and impacts, both personally and for organizations themselves. Of course, some companies capitalized on it, but it really was a very disorienting moment. It meant that work was suddenly remote, that managers had to think differently about how to manage people remotely. A work-life balance, mental health, all of these things came to the fore. And at the same time, this is converging with an overdue reckoning on race, diversity, inclusion, belonging. And then what became really a resignation wave is companies were starting to really reassess and having their own reckoning about how, when, where, why, even whether they work at all. And all of that is just creating tremendous pressure on organizations to think differently about their workforce. And that starts with better understanding your employees. And that's what Visier does for a living. Again, I mentioned it at the top of this conversation, one of the most urgent and relevant problems in the market to solve today. And hopefully now you see why.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate that. That's obviously a really great perspective on externally, why our product makes sense, how it makes a difference. How do how do you think we drink our own champagne? Like, what is it about working at Visier? You talked about, that electric intelligence, people that, truly believed in what they did. Like, what does it feel like to work here when people are connected to the mission and vision of the company?
That's a really interesting question. I see that on many levels. I mean, the first and most maybe obvious and basic is that we use our own product. So it really runs the company.
Yeah.
And we refer back to the insights that we generate to better understand our workforce. And it's part of our daily conversation, all the time. The second is the problem we solve matters to us. So I think creating, a fairer and more just world, treating people right, giving people insights to make better, more inclusive, fairer decisions on behalf of both companies and employees, is something that I think we feel in our bones. It just shows up in how we operate as a company and who we are as people. So I think it's just deeply entrenched in who we are. And then finally, I'd say, this is a company that is really wired to over-service customers. It's a huge part of who we are, is making our customers raving fans of Visier and doing right by them. So all of those things, I think, are really part of our purpose as an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things about Vizier is our size right now and the impact people have in their career, right? Because the people that join us now, we are 460 people, by this time next year, we'll probably be 560, bridging on 600. And the people that join us now are really going to be foundational into what we look like as we go into that next company phase. And so I think that if you're interested in a role where you come in and you're not layered by hierarchy and in silos, you do get to come here and, one of our values, roll up your sleeves. And really get stuck into the work, and actually everything that you do contributes and matters into what shows up in the product, how we operate as a company. So, there's no lost efforts here. It's not like something you work on gets mothballed and never seen, even though you spent a year of your life working on it.
Exactly.
Obviously we've got our values. I'm curious to understand if you're gonna say, out of our 5 values, what would you think the one thing that sticks out for you the most in how people work here? Like what part of our values do you think, you know what, we absolutely live and breathe that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the one that really resonates is play to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're here to make a difference. I mean, I mentioned a lot of I think very positive things about our culture and purpose and vision as an organization, but we're also ambitious. We believe in the mission, but we're also here to build a really successful company, nothing short of one of the most important software companies, enterprise software companies in history. Like, that sounds audacious, but that's really what we aspire to be. We think that the problem we're solving is that important, and the product is that good, and we have the opportunity to become something that's significant in the market. So play to win is the one that I live by every day.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Well, we're just about quarter past the hour, Jake. And so we're going to shortly cut over to Asindia here, but any sort of closing comments, words of wisdom? I talk about a self-selecting culture. I like to make it really obvious to people why they would love to work here, or why maybe it's not their cup of tea. So what would you leave off as your parting words for anybody listening?
Yeah, Visier is as advertised. It's a pretty unique culture. This is a good group of people, and for me, I'm kind of later in my career, I suppose, but I see it as one of the most important experiences that I've had, and I've only been here 10 months. So I feel really privileged to be part of this team and part of this company. I'm a big believer. So if you're at a point in life where you're looking for a company that creates more meaning and purpose for you and has the upside of a pre-IPO company with huge prospects ahead, it's a really good choice. And as Michelle said, the size is right. We're big enough to really make a very significant impact because we're well resourced, and we run like a business, and we run very efficiently. But we're not so big where there's layers of hierarchy and bureaucracy, and you feel like you get lost in the sauce of the doing.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Jake, thank you very, very much. We have been absolutely delighted to have you join the organization, and you joined, truthfully, not long after I did. I've only been here just over a year now, and I look forward to your Friday musings every week. Jake actually puts down his thoughts and musings every Friday in Slack for the whole company, and just shares, his words of wisdom. And I saw yours come through this morning. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for your contribution, and of course, sharing your thoughts on Visier with everyone this morning.
That's my pleasure. Thanks, Michelle.
And awesome. Thank you. Well, Asindia, hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm so excited to speak with you, and would love it if you could just give us an introduction for everyone listening.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I am Asindia Chang. I'm based in Washington, D.C. I've been with Visier, like Jake, for 10 months. Jake, I just realized we started around the same time together. And I lead our strategic partnerships team here. So we work with external partners like technology providers and consulting firms. And we work together with them to help our customers along their people analytics journey. So that's what I do as my day job. I'm also a member of our DE&I advisory board. So yeah, it's been a fun 10 months. It's been a lot going on.
So funny, because I mean, of course, I was involved in your recruitment process as well. So, having been here for, again, not long before you joined, it just kind of feels like you and Jake have always been here. It's been great. I kind of feel like I've always been here as well. But Asindia, I'd love for you to talk to us about why you joined Visier. Again, you could have gone anywhere. Why did you choose us?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit to start that I'm a bit of a nerd at heart. So the whole idea of bringing data together to help, people and companies make better decisions, that was just that just totally appealed to my nerdy side. And so I think that was kind of the first, you had me at data. And then the opportunity really to help build out a partner ecosystem here at Visier to really, make sure that we're working with this robust set of partners and being able to help shape that. And what, similar to what Jake mentioned around this is an organization that has purpose, right? We are a firm that really believes in using technology for good. And so I really wanted to be a part of that. The other piece that really appealed to me was across my career, I've really thought about culture, like how can I fit an organization's culture? And then honestly, it's been within the last few years where I started thinking more about a company's values, right? So a firm's values. Culture you can create in ecosystems or kind of like micro climates within a firm, but
Yeah.
where the heart of that firm lives is in its values. And for me, a lot of Vizier's values aligned with my own personal values. And that was the piece, beyond culture that really resonated with me.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. So Paul Rubenstein, our chief people officer, and I were chatting the other day, and we are very fortunate. We're going to be doing a podcast in a couple of weeks' time. And one of the things he said to me in that call is he said, Michelle, people's career decisions now and where they move post the Great Resignation is now not just going to be about money. It's going to be about connection to mission and purpose, and obviously financial and personal reward. And so the next wave of career moves are really going to be to find the connection of mission and purpose. Those things are not mutually exclusive anymore. They are synonymous with one another. So it's a very, very different recruitment landscape these days in what job seekers are looking for. And hence my introductory comments there around thinking that we do need to be better at giving people the information they need to understand whether or not they identify with a company. Culture of self-selection, exactly what we're about because we have been incredibly authentic and transparent in our representation of what we do here so that if that aligns to you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, topic of today, why Vizier, why now? Why do you think now is particularly a good time to join Vizier?
I think there is so much going on in the world right now where people are at the heart of everything that we do. I think we've always believed that. But there's those pieces that Jake mentioned around, DE&I, reckoning on race, pulling together, kind of the market elements around the Great Resignation, mental health. All of these pieces are really coming together to understand what our employees and frankly, what we as individuals need to thrive within an organization. And so, there are so many companies right now that are struggling with these elements and different pieces. I think there is a market need for us to help these organizations. And so I aside from that, like bigger purpose of how do we kind of continue that strong momentum to help these organizations get to where they want to be. I think that for me is that's what drives me every day.
Yeah. And, to Jake's point earlier, the sweet spot, we are at a stage in our growth where everybody's input is impactful. There's no such thing as disappearing work. What you and I do today, what Jake does today, what our recruitment team does today, absolutely impacts the success of the organization and transforms how we change, right? One of the beauties of using our own tool to support our employees and to manage our own business strategy is the fact that we can listen and we're agile and we make the right changes at the right time. So we're not, we've got this good idea and in 12 months time, that good idea comes to fruition. It's like, hey, we've got a good idea. And then, hey, look at that, next week, it's like, whoo, all right, before you even had a chance to catch your breath, we're executing on that, which I think is pretty tremendous and indicative of company size. You can't always move that quick. Yeah. Your joining Visier was foundational for a lot of people. And I think because your passion for and your knowledge of DE&I initiatives and going beyond just words and making those into actions is incredibly important. So talk to me about what you think our product does for those initiatives within our customers' environment.
Yeah, what I see with a lot of customers and organizations embarking on their DEI journeys, right? Everybody's on a different path in their journey, a different stage within their journey. And, you see some companies or some organizations that, know there is a problem, however, they're not quite sure how to fix it. You've got some who think or have an inkling there's something that needs to be fixed, but not quite sure what that could be. And then you've got folks who don't even know that there is a challenge at all. And what I find valuable about Visier is that our product actually brings multiple sources of data together so that companies can see that truth. So think about, demographic information, information about roles, levels, pay, all of that right now sits in disparate systems, but being able to pull that together to see what that looks like in one holistic place, I think that, to Paul, our chief people officer, he talks about, bringing a mirror to yourself, right? Really kind of seeing that in one spot. I think the other area that that our product is strong in is providing those insights. So it's not just about seeing the data. We actually help guide organizations to make more informed and better decisions, whether that's through benchmarking, whether that's through, we have a guided diversity planning solution. So for companies out there who have set targets of, I want to see gender equity by 2025, how do you know where you are? We actually have a way to show companies how, what happens if you hire X number of women? What happens if you lose X number of women? And that informs the actions that companies can take. And I think ultimately the most important piece is because the solution is built for everybody within the company, not just kind of the data geeks out there. It's for any line manager, anybody from manager to CEO. There is that level of transparency and accountability. And when we use it internally, our entire organization can see where we stand, right? We can see what our goals are and what our targets are and how we get there. So I really think it's those three pieces of bringing that data together to see the truth, those insights that guide us, and then that transparency so that you can have the accountability that you need.
Yeah, data to action, that the
Yes.
distance between data and action and data is minimized significantly. Whereas before with traditional BI tools, you might have this inkling or have some sort of strategy or know that you need to fix something, but it might be 2 weeks to 3 weeks to a month before you actually get the data to validate the hypothesis, which is totally different from our software that obviously gives us those answers in real time. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Asindia, again, a bit of a lob ball, I think, an easy one for you. But how would you describe Vizier's culture? Everybody asks me, the most thing that everybody asks me the most, the question that I love because I find it super easy to answer. Tell me about Vizier's culture.
I would say warm, fun, welcoming of different ideas and perspectives. Definitely no ego, Cheek. I agree with you on that one. No ego at all. And I think ultimately our culture reflects our values, right? Going back to those Visier values, and I see that every day in how we interact with one another, how we serve our clients and customers, how we work with our partners in the ecosystem. So that just it's not just our values, that resonates throughout everything that we do.
So Asindia, one more question here, and then I've actually got an audience question that I'd like to bounce around with you and Jake. Growing, everybody had the buzzword, I want to join a growth culture, I want to understand what it's like to go through a massive scale, or I want to join an IPO company. But it's very different when you get into the four walls. And understanding, what it takes to succeed in those environments that change super quick, that have to think on its feet and be really agile. So Asindia, in your opinion, what do you think it takes to succeed at Visier? Like, how would you ground those, maybe in our values or, whatever? Yeah, so
I think the first is, having some intellectual curiosity, right? There's this level of, the Visier values never stop learning. But when I think about like what makes things tick, like what makes people tick, what makes companies tick, what makes our customers tick, like all of that, like having that curiosity to continue to strive to get better. So I think that would be one piece. Jake mentioned the play to win. So I feel like that is absolutely not only in our values, but that's just, how we approach kind of in life. And then I think in general, just a comfort in the evolution of this company, right? Where we are in the world right now, where we as a firm are growing, and how you're able to help shape a lot of what's to come. So yeah, I think that it's funny, there's a little bit of comfort in knowing that things are going to change and you get to be a part of that versus things are going to change and you don't. So we're definitely on the former. So
yeah, there's no such thing as just executing the playbook every day here.
yeah.
It's very much, let's use the strategy, but let's iterate as we go to make sure it's the right one.
Right.
Okay, so a really great question here from the audience. And Jake, I'll throw this one to you first, and then Asindia, I'll get you to weigh in on it as well. But everybody's interested in the future, the growth, what's happening. So what would you say we've got in store for us in the short to midterm?
So we have been a leader in a category that's been sort of a niche category for quite a while, and it's served us well, and we're well recognized in that category. And we built a good business around it. But I think we're right at the knee in the curve where this category is actually becoming relevant to a much broader set of audiences. So it's not just solving HR problems. It's about solving problems for managers and executives who need to better understand their workforce, because that's really coming to the fore as something that they need to think about every day. So that just opens our addressable market very significantly, and it creates more urgency and relevance around what we're doing. So we're coming out of this year very strong, growing pretty fast with good momentum and feeling great about our performance this last year. And we're coming into next year, our fiscal year starts February 1, with just tremendous prospects. It's a really, really good time to be at Vizier.
Amazing. Asindia, anything to add there?
I echo what Jake mentioned around, beyond HR, right? When going back to my comments around, the people are at the heart of everything. There is tremendous opportunity to ensure that we make sure those folks count. We hear their opinions. We understand how they feel. We pull all of that in to have a full vision of the workforce within an organization.
Yeah, awesome. Cindy, you've got a fan here of your Twilight box set, which I have to say, when we were chatting yesterday, I noticed as well, and I love it.
And Team Edward all the way.
She has the best background.
I know. I'm like envious.
So curated.
It's like such a great office swag right there.
Yeah, I almost confused it as like a virtual background because it's so perfectly curated.
Right? I know, absolutely.
Oh,
John's got a good question here from the audience, and he says, what do we got? Has much changed in light of the pandemic, or did things transition seamlessly in light of remote first online world? Are there any key differences between in-person or remote worth mentioning? Having you both were remote onboarders, you're both based East Coast, Central East Coast. So I'd love it if you would share your experience on what it was like to onboard with us remotely.
Asindia, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. I have to say, I have never had such a smooth onboarding experience. And I've been a remote worker for a long time. So this was, I was expecting some kinks and, kind of like having to figure things out. The level of white glove service from our IT department, even just on day one, to help me get set up and make sure that I was ready to roll, that was huge. And then all of the curriculum and the training and onboarding process, I felt like not only was I learning about the company, but it also allowed me to interact with folks within the organization that helped me build my network. So I feel like that was frankly very important to me, especially since I wasn't able to meet folks in person. So yeah, it started to feel like a community sooner than I expected it to. So that was my experience. Jake, what about you?
I had a very similar experience. The one thing I would add to that is that a lot of particularly growth stage companies, it's fashionable to build trophy offices that they build their cultures around. That is not Visier. And what happens is people that are remote feel left out. They feel like they're missing out on something. We're definitely a talent first company, and we do have offices. So there's an opportunity to get together when it makes sense for the teams to get together. But there isn't this separate culture that's happening in some place. Visier is the collective sum of all of its parts wherever these people live.
I think the power of being able to use our own tool, right? That drink our own champagne, is that we have the best tool on the planet to actually understand what our employees need, because we survey sentiment, but we also survey data. And so we understand the fact and the feeling about what people are doing. And we listen and change our onboarding program to make sure that it is incredibly inclusive, no matter what particular needs an individual has. And I think, through my own onboarding experience, I'm very fortunate that I live in our head office city, but I onboarded remotely. It was in the height of the pandemic. There was no catching up in person. And, I have to say, Cindy, I felt the same thing. The community felt close quickly, which was really amazing, because I think it's personally, I think everybody is looking for a little bit of closeness, because we all feel very far apart these days, because you can't celebrate with loved ones like we once could so easily. So finding that sense of community and belonging at work is pivotally important.
The one example I'll give, Michelle, is we have a phenomenal operations team that puts together these kind of fun events. So, fun events. And I'm one of those who's like heads down working all day, but I so appreciate that part of our culture is, hey, let's just lift up for a moment and, let's do a categories tournament. And I participated in the categories tournament.
Good.
We had folks from different,
Jeopardy.
parts of the world. Yeah. And Jeopardy, that was, that actually it brightened my day after being like, okay, I'm going to get all this work done. I'm going to do this, make an impact. But that also, part of that culture and kind of the onboarding experience is, no, you can have fun. We can, enjoy each other's company that is not specifically work related. So, and we can do that virtually.
Some of the most senior members of our company were involved in Jeopardy and categories. There was some competition happening there. That was not for the faint of heart. Everybody, whether it was our co-op students, or some of the exec team, they were all getting on board. That was so much fun. And just to quickly touch on, we've got a question here from Kay Perkins, just around specifically how do we create that cohesion. And I will just touch on that very quickly, because I am conscious of time here and very grateful for the time that everyone's spent. But the way that we actually create that cohesion, I think, is because we have access to data, right? We can survey how people are feeling and what is actually happening, because we have access to that information, and we make changes on it. So the way that we support that cohesion is constantly asking questions, listening, and then making the changes that people ask for, right? If you never take action on the things that people tell you are important to them, then what's the point of doing the surveys? And if it's today I feel this way, and then I don't see action being taken on those things for 6 to 8 months, I probably don't even feel that way in 6 to 8 months. And culture, there's no one and done with culture. It's not like, oh, we nailed culture today and now we get to move on. Culture is a daily, evolutionary, constant piece of work that an organization, their leadership down to, their entry-level employees and all the way through the ranks, everyone has to be bought into culture. Everybody has to be a contributor, because it does change. Culture is an organism, right? It's a living, breathing thing that needs work. And I think that whilst it's not sunshine and rainbows every day, and we have to listen and we have to work hard, the wonderful thing is when you work with great people, is that everybody's kind of in the trenches together. So on the tough days, you've got a smiling face to get through some of the challenges and work through to the next. So, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I could probably keep going for ages, because I'm a talker. My career in recruitment has served me very, very well. I am internally grateful to have spent half an hour with both of you two delightful people. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and sentiment. Emily, if you could do me a favor and flash up our recruitment screen there so we can give people a little bit of insight into who we are. So this is your Visier recruitment team. Everybody attending today will get a copy of this slide deck, and those names are clickable into LinkedIn. Of course, Jake and Asindia, please do look them up on LinkedIn and connect with them and ask any questions you have. As I said, those links are clickable. Jake, Asindia, is there any other closing comments from yourselves before we lose you for this morning?
The only thing is, please reach out if you have any questions at all about Vizier, what it's like to work here. If you, just have questions about kind of your next transition, I'm happy to chat. And yeah, please find me on LinkedIn. I love meeting new people, especially in this virtual world right now. So yeah, hope to connect with you soon. I'll
keep it short. Ditto. Same here. Please reach out.
Amazing. Thank you both. And everyone as well, please ensure you engage with us on all of our associated channels. So we are, of course, on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. Instagram is the place to find out all things about Vizier's culture and the people behind Vizier. And then, of course, to look at our current job opportunities, of which there are many. And again, we will be hiring over 100 people in the next 12 months. Please jump into jobs.vizier.com and check us out and connect with anyone on the recruitment team to learn a little bit more about us. And thank you again for giving us some of your time. I truly, truly enjoyed the morning.